Imagine vomiting once, twice, and then suddenly seeing blood. What just happened? It could be Mallory-Weiss syndrome. Hey guys, and welcome to How to Gastro, Medical Lectures Made Easy, presented by me, Dr. I. Govender. So in today's video, we'll be doing a deep dive into Mallory-Weiss syndrome, which is a cause of upper GI bleeding after vomiting. So let's get started. So what is Mallory-Weiss syndrome? Mallory-Weiss syndrome is a longitudinal mucosal tear that occurs at or near the gastroesophageal junction, usually caused by a sudden rise in intra-abdominal or intragastric pressure, classically following forceful vomiting or retching. The tear primarily affects the mucosa and may extend into the submucosal layer as well, resulting in upper gastrointestinal bleeding. So from this definition of Mallory-Weiss syndrome, we understand that it's a longitudinal tear that usually occurs in and around the gastroesophageal junction, and it includes the mucosal layer, which is the innermost layer of the stomach and esophagus, and the submucosal layer as well. So there's two layers that tear here. And this is different from Boerhaave syndrome, if you remember our latest lecture on Boerhaave syndrome, which is an esophageal tear that occurs that actually involves all the layers of the esophagus. So it's actually a complete full esophageal rupture. So this is where Mallory-Weiss syndrome is different, because here we just have tears which occur in the two innermost layers, which are the mucosal and submucosal layers of the esophagus. And the tears usually happen here at this gastroesophageal junction, where the esophagus and the stomach meet at this point right here. So the tears here actually occur due to an increase in intra-stomach or intra-abdominal pressure. So once the pressure within the gastric cavity or within the abdominal cavity increases, it causes quite a bit of pressure on these very fragile mucosal and submucosal layers, causing these tears to develop during the vomiting or retching process. So you know that if you've ever vomited before, you feel that sudden clenching of your stomach. And once that stomach clenches to expel the food when we vomit or we retch, the intra-abdominal or intragastric cavity pressure will increase, leading to these tears. So the patient will vomit, the tears will occur, and then there will be vomiting or the appearance of blood as well. Because once these tears occur, we will have bleeding out at the site, and therefore the patient will also start vomiting blood thereafter. So now that we know what the basics of Mallory-Weiss syndrome is, let's take a closer look at the actual layers involved. So just to recap, we have the various esophageal layers here. So in Mallory-Weiss syndrome, we have a breakage in the mucosal and the submucosal layers. So as we see here, this is where the tear occurs. And remember, in Boerhaave syndrome, just for context purposes, the rupture will occur across all these layers because it's actually a full thickness or transmural rupture. So here, remember, we only have the two innermost layers, which are actually ruptured at this point. So the common causes of Mallory-Weiss syndrome. So as we mentioned in the first slide, forceful vomiting or repeated retching or severe coughing or alcohol-associated vomiting can actually lead to an increased intra-abdominal and intragastric pressure. So there's lots of pressure that forms at this point. So forceful vomiting sharply increases the pressure inside the stomach, and this pressure is transmitted into the lower esophagus, causing a tear in the esophageal lining at the gastroesophageal junction, which is right here. And as we see here, the stomach contracts forcefully in the process of vomiting, and then here we have the tear occurring. So the tear here is in the mucosal and submucosal layers. That is the Mallory-Weiss tear, and the tear may bleed, causing the vomiting of blood or coffee ground material. So the key mechanism is a sudden increase in the intra-abdominal or intragastric pressure. So remember, forceful vomiting or retching leads to pressure rising in that gastric cavity, causing a longitudinal mucosal tear, which then leads to upper GI bleeding. So once this tear occurs, the patients will actually start to vomit fresh blood, which is referred to as hematemesis. And in some cases, it can come out sort of like coffee ground material because once that blood mixes with the gastric juices tries to actually digest that blood, and therefore the color change occurs at that point. So sometimes when these patients vomit, it might not look like fresh red blood, it might look like coffee ground material. So the clinical presentation in these patients will be the vomiting or retching, causing the tear in the lining of the lower esophagus. Blood is then vomited, hematemesis, fresh blood, or blood that looks like coffee grounds. So when we have an upper GI bleed, whatever blood does not come out through the mouth will go through the entire digestive process and will then be expelled in the stool. So the patient will also have digested blood in their stool, which will be then seen as black tarry stools, and this is referred to as Melena. These patients may also experience dizziness or weakness due to that loss of blood, so they might feel lightheaded, weak, or faint, especially if they are standing up. And then they might have tachycardia, which is an increase in the heart rate, or hypotension, which is a drop in their blood pressure. And this is generally when significant amount of blood loss occurs, and it will present as tachycardia and hypotension. So remember, we will have vomiting or retching initially, followed by hematemesis, the vomiting of blood, melena, those dark tarry stools, dizziness and weakness, especially in significant blood loss, and tachycardia and hypotension. So how does one go about diagnosing Mallory-Weiss syndrome? So we assess the hemoglobin and hematocrit by doing a blood test, and this helps to determine the severity of the blood loss and can identify anemia from the blood loss too. So serial measurements can help monitor ongoing bleeding as well. So this is from a blood test. So the first thing we will do is the complete blood count, includes the hemoglobin and hematocrit. It will give us some sort of indication of the amount of blood loss the patient has suffered. We can then diagnose the syndrome by doing an upper GI endoscopy. So on endoscopy, Mallory-Weiss syndrome presents as a linear mucosal laceration, usually at or near the gastroesophageal junction, and it may actually show active bleeding or stigmata of recent bleeding. And as we can see here, this is what that fresh raw tear looks like. That is a Mallory-Weiss tear. And so the treatment of Mallory-Weiss syndrome. So most Mallory-Weiss tears stop bleeding spontaneously. But in a clinical setting, the first thing we need to do is assess the patient's stability. We need to establish an IV access, give fluids or blood if needed, and correct any significant coagulopathy. If there is no active bleeding, we can do conservative treatment with a proton pump inhibitor, and this will help reduce the acidity within the gastric cavity. And usually we do pantoprazole via IV. And we can also add an antiemetic or an anti-vomiting agent, which can be added to control further vomiting or retching in these patients, because this will actually exacerbate any symptoms that they might have. So adding the antiemetic prevents any further retching or vomiting. So it'll also help ease the patient's uneasiness. And then if the bleeding is active or persistent, we can do endoscopic treatment, and this can be used to stop the bleeding, and it can be done in various ways, either via mechanical clips, thermal coagulation, or injection therapy. So in the mechanical clips, it's done endoscopically as well, where we actually clip the active bleeding point. Thermal coagulation basically means burning the site where the active bleed is taking place. And injection therapy refers to injecting coagulation chemicals into the bleeding site to prevent any further bleeding. We can also do arteriography, and this is an angiographic embolization, which may be used to identify and control the bleeding vessel when endoscopic therapy is unsuccessful. So here we see the bleeding vessel is identified, a catheter is then advanced in, and the vessel is embolized or plugged to prevent any further blood loss. And finally, we can also do surgery, and this can be considered when severe bleeding cannot be controlled with endoscopic or angiographic therapy. And in this procedure, the Mallory-Weiss tear is actually closed up with a suture to prevent any further bleeding. So remember, Mallory-Weiss syndrome is kind of different from Boerhaave syndrome because in Mallory-Weiss syndrome, we usually have a tear at the gastric side of the gastroesophageal junction, which may extend into the distal esophagus, where in Boerhaave syndrome, it's usually in the esophagus itself. And remember here, we have patients who usually vomit or retch first, and it usually is alcohol-induced in most cases. And the tear is an incomplete tear and only affects the mucosal and submucosal layers of the esophagus or stomach. And patients here will present with hematemesis. And in Boerhaave syndrome, we will have the development of subcutaneous emphysema, and it's a full thickness rupture, which means it involves all the layers of the esophagus where the tear occurs, and it usually occurs at the lower portion of the thoracic esophagus. And remember here, we will have crunching sounds upon auscultation of the heart due to the pneumomediastinum. So here we will have air in the mediastinal space due to air leaking out from the esophageal space into the mediastinum. And that brings us to the end of this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you found the presentation very interesting and informative. Please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and to share this video with someone you think may find it helpful. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.